Hey everyone, this is Chris Barnes from East Brunswick Public Library. You are listening to another episode of the Read, Watch, Listen podcast. Our next guest is unique. He's one of the few people who can say that they are a library regular and that they're also a published author. You can check out his books from our collection. My special guest is Ron Cacace. Ron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's the last Friday of the year. How are you, Chris?
Oh, very good. Enjoying the last Friday of the year and looking at the pile of books that I thought I would finish throughout the year, but that's what 2023 is for.
We've all got giant piles of books to get through, Chris. You are not alone.
Well, thank you for making me feel better. So, Ron, you're a local author. So, could you tell our listeners about your projects?
Sure. So I'm Central New Jersey based. I write webcomics for Archie Comics. I am the author of the bite-sized Archie webcomic along with the artist Vincent Lavallo. It's a weekly comic we publish for free on the social media channels and on archiecomics.com. We've been doing this for about 2 years now, and we've put out a collected edition, which you can check out from the library, called Bite Size Archie Volume 1.
Very cool. And as an Archie aficionado myself, who's your favorite Archie character and why?
I always have trouble with these kind of questions where I'm asked to pick a favorite because I have execution dysfunction where suddenly I think of all my favorites and I can't choose. But Jughead is amongst my favorites. He's one of the most iconic characters, and I love his personality. So I'll go with Jughead.
That's a great choice. I like his independence in all his different incarnations. He's always a pretty much a self starter. He's confident in who he is and what he does. And I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. He can have his own stories that aren't necessarily around the other members of the Archie gang, and he can do weird and wacky things and then just fits right back into the main stories. He's truly unique.
Yep. And visually, I like how, they've modernized some of the artwork styles, but definitely like the clothing that they wear. But I love how Jughead still has his signature crowd hat. Like that's never going out of style. And I get a kick out of it every time I see it. It's a definite Jughead thing.
Of course, the whoopee cap is forever. You're never going to get rid of that thing. It might change in the different incarnations in Riverdale or other media, but he's always going to have a crown on his head no matter where he is.
Very cool. Okay, so we're going to get into our podcast here. It's called Read, Watch, Listen, where we talk to people about what they've been reading, watching, and listening. So let's start off with the reading. Rod, what have you been reading lately?
Well, if you've looked at my Twitter account the last few days, you've noticed I've been reading a lot. I went to a bookstore and picked up a ton of books on sale, as well as, local library checkouts. Can't miss that part. But I've been reading a very, very large book called Catwoman of East End Omnibus by Ed Brubaker, Darwin Cook. It is a tremendously heavy book, but it collects the entire Catwoman run from the early 2000s, and it's amazing. I'm having a ton of fun with it.
Yeah, I read that before. It's a great creative team. Darwin Cook is sorely missed in the comics world since his passing. And Ed Brubaker, any of his books, whether they're or crime oriented or superhero or anywhere in between, it's just really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a whole shelf dedicated to his works, Captain America and Fatale and Reckless series. I really love what he's been doing over the last, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I like him because he's great. He's everywhere, but he's also still kind of underrated at the same time. So when you find Ed Brubaker readers, it's kind of like you're finding someone else who's part of a top secret, super cool club. Like, if that makes sense.
It does make sense because he's moved off of the larger, high profile, big two Marvel and DC comics, and he's been doing a lot of creator owned stuff. And so when you can find someone who follows a creator across all of their various titles, you found a reader and not just a collector or somebody who checks in from time to time. You found somebody who's really enjoying the stories.
Yeah, no, I love all his stuff. Criminal is severely underrated. I recommend that to everyone all the time. Just, yeah, he's he's a good dude. I'll say he's a friend in my head because I like all his work.
We've all got friends in our heads, right? It's just not always talking about them with other people.
No, no. All right, so we're going to transition from the reading. So what have you been watching lately?
It's hard for me to really watch too much these days. My attention span has been completely shattered by social media and other apps, but the movie I've watched recently was Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I don't know how else to say this, but it was just tremendous. It was a really, really wonderful experience to watch that alongside my wife, Amelia, and she's been a guest on this podcast before. So we watched that recently, really enjoyed it, and then we typically watch episodes of Law and Order SVU together, which is just a guilty pleasure.
I think that the Law and Order series, it's great because I like the way their take on episodic programming. Like each episode is a standalone. You get right into whatever the case that they're working on and you get out in 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's a monster of the week type formula, right? They have overarching character stories and personalities that, change over time. One of the things I find so interesting is that there's 20 seasons or so of this program. So earlier seasons have so many amazing actors before they really made their big break, or in some cases SVU is their big break. So you get to go back, and as soon as you see a familiar face show up in an episode, okay, that guy's important. I know they did something in this episode. They're going to recur. So you can see, there was an episode with Martin Short. There was an episode with Danielle Panabaker from The Flash. Like all these episodes right in a row in this certain season where I'm recognizing all the victims or the criminals because they're all going on to do more prominent work afterwards, which is very cool.
Now, that's something we're just talking about this. I was just wondering. I wonder if they've ever reused like a victim as a law enforcement officer or a lawyer. Like, you know how in Star Trek, if you watch all the original episodes and even the Next Generation, you can see actors that have been reused several different roles throughout the run of the show. I wonder if that happened in Law and Order.
Definitely. As someone who peruses the trivia page of IMDb after every episode that we watch, it absolutely occurs. So they do have recurring victims who change to become the criminal, or they become a defense attorney. So it is a recurring theme where a character or an actor will show up later with a different name and interact with the same people.
That's pretty cool. I like that like you said, it's a great trivia piece for it. Now, is there a Law and Order series? You're just an SVU fan, or are there any of the other spinoffs that
When I was growing up, I really liked the original Law and Order with Sam Waterston. I really enjoyed that series, but for right now, we've just been doing the SVU stuff. We're about on season 7. So I don't know if we're going to go towards, Criminal Intent and the other spinoffs, but for now we're on SVU,
they're all good? It's like choosing your favorite child.
and I don't have any.
The segue out of that, last, what have you been listening to?
So I get a lot of my music and musical influences this time these days by my wife. I've been listening to Cheshire by ITZY. It's a K-pop group, and they just put out this new mini album. So there's the self-titled track, and there's some other B-sides that I'm really enjoying. And we got to see them at the Hulu Theater in Madison Square Garden just a month or two ago.
Oh, very nice. That's one of the things that I've missed during the whole COVID and pandemic era is just live music. It's a great experience.
Yeah, it was a decent experience getting to go there. We hopped right off the train and then just kind of walked upstairs to go, and wore our masks the whole time. We came back home before 11:30. It was pretty much the ideal concert experience.
That's adulting done well right there.
Absolutely. We have to min-max our time spent on the transit and, going from door to door. So every minute is valuable these days.
Job well done. So, Ron, that pretty much wraps up our show. Where can they find your work on the internet if people want to see your Archie projects or just, learn more about what you've been writing?
Sure. You can read Bite Size Archie for free on archiecomics.com. You can also check out the Archie Comics social media pages on Twitter and Instagram. And I also do work for a comic startup called Zestworld. You can read the free digital comics on zestworld.com. I'm helping to recruit new creators to that platform and help get their comics up there and share their stories. So you could read Archie Comics on archiecomics.com, and you could read other comics on zestworld.com.
I was going to say, just jump in here for your plug, but I've checked out Zest World. And there's a lot of good comic stuff on there. So give them a check out.
Yeah, it's a bunch of free comics to read. We all love free stuff, right? And you can follow me at Ronzilla, RAWNZILLA, on all the social media channels that matter.
Great. Again, Ron, thank you for stopping by the podcast today. For Melissa Hosick, who's been producing this, I'm Chris Barnes. You can check out the complete read, watch, listen history to all our podcasts over the years at ebpl.org/podcast. Until then, thanks for listening.